Has moral courage died? I've been reading this fantastic book by Rollo May. It's called The Courage to Create. And some of the passages that I was reading on moral courage is something which kind of resonated deeply, and I thought of sharing and talking about it and having this discussion on it. Made me realize how we're living in times where there's a drastic decline of courage, and Rollo May speaks about it. He mentioned this is back in 1975, 50 years from 50 years ago from now, and he spoke about how the robotification, the man becomes a robot when he stops feeling for the suffering of others. He didn't call this a term robotification, but he said man robot, man the robot, and man can save himself from becoming the robot if he is empathic towards the suffering of other human beings. And we see a lack of it in today's time, largely because we have become so self-centric, egocentric, self-absorbed, all of those terms that we can talk about, because we're so scared of our own survival in today's existence of indulgence and distractions. So there's a bit of a dilemma then, that how do we find our way in these times, right, where we are so scared for our own survival, largely because we've been programmed to not live a meaningful life, to be so fixated and to be drowning in these distractions, something I've spoken about in the past as well. Distractions largely has been my talking point. The distractions and then the lack of meaning in today's culture, because we're drowning in distractions and things that are fighting to get our attention, basically amusing ourselves to death. This is another book that I'm going to soon start reading, by Neil Postman. You guys should YouTube this person and his lecture. Again, this is 50 years ago. Literally, these guys talking about how our world would be shaped and how it'll become, and we're living that currently. So Rollo May basically spoke about how does this process happen of us turning a blind eye, basically us removing our perception towards the suffering of others, when we can separate us, when we don't focus on it. Otherwise, we have to act upon it if we bring our focus on it. And we can think about all these situations, tyranny, lawlessness that has occurred around us, wrong things, suffering imposed on good individuals by the ruling class or otherwise, and people not doing anything about it because people are so self-absorbed and so scared for their own survival. And that's why I talk about dilemma. And why is this coming from? The egocentric and self-absorbed feeling. It's coming from a place of not seeing the temporariness, not seeing how futile and temporary our own existence is, losing that concept, losing that reality, not pondering upon it, thinking that we're going to live endlessly, if that is a word, endlessly. And hence we're trying to gratify ourselves, our needs, through everything that is thrown our way. And I also fall a victim of it many times. Not saying I'm totally immune to it, but I'm still practicing learning. We do have people around us though who still have this moral courage. We do have it as well for causes that we stand up for, and especially if you're resonating with this video, you still have that part in you, right? Empathic person who is open to the suffering of others. And I have a close friend who I recently spoke to, who was ready to give his resignation. He works at a hospital in a corporate setting, and how corporate setting hospitals are totally away from healing and the actual meaning of it, but trying to see each patient as business, while my friend and his senior are not those kind of individuals. So they rebelled and they had to face the repercussions, which was facing grave opposition, because these are the times that we're living in, Kali Yuga, right? Where the truth speakers, people who are walking on the path of right and dharma, will be questioned, will be attacked, and the ones who could deceit well will be the leaders. That's what Kali Yuga is. Several definitions, but this is one I can share with you, or one that fits well with what I'm trying to describe our current situation as. And again, listening to this friend was inspiring in that sense, very motivating of how a person is kind of acting out from his dharma and ready to lose it all, right? Because he has this knowing that it's not being done by, these deeds are not being done by him, but through him, right? So, and he's just being a participant in it, just saying yes, uh, fearlessly, unlike most of the population, unlike how we kind of fall into the cycle of fears as well, often. And this kind of brings in largely the conversation surrounding masculinity as well. When we talk about moral courage as well, fighting for the wrongs, how much are we seeing that in today's time, right? Has masculinity declined to just the superficial, the body, the sports, competitive sports, where we are channelizing collectively our energy, our warrior in us, which has to stand up against the wrongs, but is standing up and being channelized through sports, which are basically meaningless for money, rather than fighting for greater causes, right? For humanity, for the suffering of other human beings, his fellow human beings. Let's just ponder upon that if this video makes any sense to you. Thank you for watching.